What's up, guys and gals, and welcome back to Weekly Indie Newcomer, our Friday series where we talk about what I've been playing in the indie scene, and I give you recommendations, pros and cons, based on whether the game is worth your time or not. This week we're going to be taking a look at Quest of Dungeons, which is a pretty sweet little game. It's a one-man project that was recently released on Steam. You can get it for $4.99. If you look down in the description, I will have all of the information available for you. In it, you take control of one of 4 archetype heroes, and then you make your way through a dungeon. Who would have thought that a Quest of Dungeons would be taking place in a dungeon? I never would have thunk it. That would have been a thunk that would have never occurred. So in this case, we're going to jump straight on in and go to new game, and we're going to play the first 30 minutes of the game or so, about 25 minutes, and we'll just kind of talk about the things that we observe along the way and some of the things you want to be aware of if you're planning on purchasing this title. Now, first things first, you're going to notice that we have 4 characters we get to choose from, the same ones that you saw wonderfully rendered on the title screen. We've got the warrior, who is a mighty warrior specialized in handling swords, obviously. We've got the wizard, who I played last night to a couple. I made it pretty far with the wizard. I enjoyed it. The wizard's cool. He's terrible in melee, as you might have guessed, but he has some pretty awesome spammable spells and a huge MP pool. The assassin, I haven't played the assassin yet, so I have no idea what the assassin has going for him, and instead of doing like a first impressions thing of the assassin, I'll probably do something I've played already. The shaman is an interesting class in that he's okay in melee, but all of his magic spells are support spells, and in that way I find him to be probably the most interesting of the classes because he's a little bit different. He's a debuffer, basically. He debuffs the enemy, he uses CC and all kinds of crowd control. It's pretty sweet. So we're going to play the shaman today because I can't turn down a man with a wolf on his head. And we are going to play on, I don't know, we'll play, let's go on hard and just kind of see how this whole thing plays out. Why not? I've never done it before, and what's the worst that could happen? In the land of Viral, a powerful and evil lord stole all of the light, trapping it inside of a magical lantern. Darkness spread quickly and ruthless. 4 heroes joined forces. You should go alone. Wait, what? Good idea. How is that a good idea? Divide and conquer, man. You have a staff. Yeah, you totally have a staff. I'm not so sure about this. Yeah, we'll stay here. You'll be fine. Yep. Alright. And so we leave on our quest. He's so dead. Totally. Awesome. It's a dark night with just a gentle breeze in the air, and you finally reach the ruins of the old Umfar mansion. But who knows what secrets and horrors lie inside? And will you survive? And so here it is. This game actually has a lot in common. If I had to compare it with a couple of games, I would say that if you crossed older Gauntlet games with maybe a little bit of Dungeons of Dreadmore's humor and then just kind of rogued it up a little bit, I think you'd be alright here. The game is fairly basic with regards to those kind of precepts, but anyways, you can use WASD to move, or you can just click around with the mouse, whichever you would prefer. If you look at the bottom right hand corner, there's a couple things that you want to be aware of. You've got your weapon that you have in hand, and if I right click, you'll see that little yellow box. It switches around, or you can hit the space bar and it'll make it do that. But it's swapping in between attacking with your staff and attacking with your spells. Now, the one spell that we have on hand right now, if we click our little spell book, is called Terror, and it causes our enemies just to sit there like gripped in terror. So XCOM mode, they go into panic and they're just like, and they just like sit around in the corner just wetting themselves and messing up those wonderful pantaloons that we're trying to steal from them in order to wear them. I'm not sure if magical pants had pee in them, like monster pee in them. I don't know if I would still want to wear them. But anyways, let's be out on our quest. By the way, don't look at that signpost right there. It's suicide. It kills your character. That's how my first character met his untimely end. And so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and draw them back into the hallway here, and then we'll just fight them by hand. And you attack enemies by pressing in their direction. So as you can see, the game is pretty rapid fire, and it moves at a reasonable pace, which is, I think, one of those things that kind of sets it apart. I would say that this game is quasi-turn-based. I wouldn't say that it is. We need the square key to go through that door. I would say that it's quasi-turn-based, so the game does function by turn. So as you can see, every time I move, they move. When I move, you move, and all that kind of stuff, if you wanted to quote hip-hop sources. But at the same time, the game is rapid-fire, and it moves quickly enough to where it doesn't feel like it's turn-based a lot of the time. And so sometimes I need to be careful while I play the game because I find myself functioning in kind of a real-time sense, and it gets me into all kinds of trouble. Now, that skeleton is badass. What we want to do is we want to cast fear on him, but only once he gets a little bit closer. And so there it is, he's now scared, and we can beat him to death as he cowers in the corner without having to worry about losing our life. Our health bar is up at the top left corner right here. You'll see we have 24 HP. We've been taking a little bit of a beating. It hasn't been so bad of a quest, but yes, we have indeed taken a couple bludgeonings. We've also got our mana pool right here, which we have 25 mana left. If you look at the little blue number along the bottom right-hand corner of your spells, that's where you can find out what the mana cost is going to be of any given spell. Over here in the bottom left-hand corner, you've got your inventory, which is nicely rendered. I do like the inventory screen a lot, and in fact, since we're so wounded, I think I'm going to eat this egg. So there we are. We've gotten 14 HP back by eating a raw egg. We've got our quest log. The game does assign you random quests, just like Dungeons of Dreadmore does. So while you're running around, you'll find these random, I guess, shrines, and they'll be like, go kill this guy, and it'll spawn a boss in here, and then you'll have to go fight him. And the bosses are pretty fatal, to be honest. The bosses are scary guys. They're not to be trifled with. That's a bear trap. Don't step on that. It might hurt your pedicle a little bit. You might end up with a pedicure that you would not enjoy. That is also a trap right there, so don't step on that either. And this is a shopkeeper. He looks rather sinister. The first time I saw him, I tried to shoot him with spells, so don't feel bad if that's your first reaction as well. He looks like a Sith Lord. He doesn't look like he's offering you friendly items. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of gear right now, so I don't think we're going to be able to afford anything, but you can buy everything from swords to boots to discount cheeses to maybe some extra health potions if you needed to get yourself healed up. That, and he's got schnazzy music, so anybody who's got schnazzy music is obviously trustworthy. This game does have a pretty good soundtrack. I've enjoyed the music thus far. I'm going to freeze that rat and then beat him. Oh no, he's not being beaten to death. I'm going to freeze that one then. And down he goes. Now how do you get more skills in this game? That's something we probably want to talk about. But at this point, you're probably sitting there going, alright, so you're able to fear stuff, you're able to bludgeon things and beat it to death, but where does the variable gameplay come from? Well, as you play through the game, you'll find spellbooks lying around, and these spellbooks are going to be applicable for just about every class in the game. So they teach you new spells. Now you may get a warrior spellbook on your playthrough, and you can learn that. So if you get a sword proficiency on your shaman, guess what? You can now use swords. There's nothing limiting you from using any of these spellbooks that you find around, which leads to, I think, the first kind of variety bending exercise in the game, in that a lot of the variable gameplay is going to come based on the fact of what spellbooks you get. So if you end up with a lot of mage spellbooks, your warrior could very much end up being a frontline tank who also wields spells all over the place, and it's going to be in your best interest to figure out ways to keep your mana pool topped off. Conversely, if you end up with a shaman, or you end up with a wizard who ends up with like sword proficiencies and defensive proficiencies and things like that, it's going to be a multi-class situation in which it benefits you to play to the direction of whatever it is that you've picked up recently. So that's where a lot of the variable gameplay is going to come from here. If we press the M key, you can see that the map is randomly generated, and the rooms, this is going to be a fairly expansive floor. In fact, in this first little look, I don't think we're going to make it off of the first floor, because the floors are enormous, and it's in your best interest to hack your way through the entire floor before you go anywhere else. You really do want to level up before you go down to level 2, because the difficulty jump is pretty substantial in between floor 1 and floor 2 and floor 3, so I would suggest just kind of grinding your way through the entire level each time you play, just like I typically do in Dungeons of Dreadmore. I never leave until I've cleared out the entire floor beforehand, unless I found like a monster zoo or something like that. The game is properly, I think the game is pleasantly rendered. I do like the fact that they've gone with kind of Super NES genre graphics. I do like the way that things are played out before me. When I first played it, I thought that the skill is still on cooldown. Disappointing. If you take a look down here, there will be a little bit of a cooldown right there. I do enjoy the graphical stylings. I have heard some people complain that they don't like the graphics, and I think it's one of those take it or leave it type things. I think you're more inclined to like the graphics if you grew up in the generation where, you know, you played Super Nintendo all day, you played Sega Genesis all day, you played Nintendo, and this was the best we had at the time, although obviously it's by no terms limited. I know lots of people who are younger who enjoy awesome pixelated graphics as well. I'm just saying that the people that seem to be really cool with the graphics tend to be basing their judgment on nostalgia, and I think that's just how it goes with indie gaming nowadays. If you go with retro graphics, it's one of those value judgments where it's just like, do you like retro graphics? Were you around back then? Sure, why not? It doesn't make the decision for you, but it helps. It helps. Let's beat him to death. And honestly, given the prevalence right now of games that are pixelated, I would say that, honestly, pixelated games are going to be around from here on out, so I think everybody's been exposed to them, whether or not they saw the source material or not. But let's get this is the quest shrine that I was talking about. So a quest has been added to our journal. If we press the Q key, it'll open it up, or you can click this these little boxes right here. Kill Benintimo, or Beninpepto, or whatever his name is. Kill Beninpepto. He may not look dangerous, but he's very strong. He has bowel problems, and he will fire them at you. Give me your gold and run. One of the things that I will say that I've noticed along the way is that the game, I don't think, was written by somebody who I don't think the game was translated entirely properly. So one of the things that you will see as you play through the game is that if you are an English speaker, some of the sentences will appeal. Oh, I died. I wasn't paying attention to my HP. I was busy talking to you guys. Well, that's how that ended. Let's get back in here. And the game is pretty rapid fire, so there's nothing to worry about there. But as I was saying, with the way that the game plays out, a lot of the translations can be a little bit iffy. It's not that you won't be able to figure out what's going on, so the sentences will make sense. It's just that a lot of them seem to be sort of broken or a little bit awkward, as though they're being moved over from one language to the next. And so be aware of that. If awkward translations drive you crazy, then this game is going to be one of those that may kind of irritate you a little bit. I've seen a number of complaints about that. It doesn't bother me really, because I've played through other games with much worse translations. For example, Inquisitor or Inquisition or whatever that game was that was kind of like Diablo that came out about 6 months ago. Oh my god. This room is all bad news for us. So he's now dead. We managed to critical our way out of the situation. I'm going to freeze him, and while we wait, got a couple turns until that's back up. We'll freeze him, and since our HP is low, I'm not going to take the risk that I had before. I think Inquisitor was the last game I played that the translation was just so absolutely abysmal that I couldn't finish it. This game is not like that. Everything makes sense where it is. It's just that it's going to take you maybe a second reading or something every now and again. So be aware of that. If that's the sort of thing that grinds your gears, then it will most assuredly grind your gears here. Beyond that point, the bosses do seem to be pretty challenging as far as the game goes as a roguelike or a roguelite. I would call it a roguelite, and in fact, I would put this game more in the camp of Gauntlet than anything else. I would be more tasked with calling this an action RPG than I would calling it a roguelike, simply because the complicated interface and the metagame structures that are typically in place, let's say that you play Powder or you play NetHack, those games are truly roguelikes in that they have loads and loads of hotkeys. There's dozens upon hundreds of things you have to learn before you can even be slightly successful at the game. Why is he yellow? That's concerning. Oh, he's a boss of some sort. Is that Ben and Timo? Is that Ben and Pepto? Or is that before I died? Well, quest completed. That must have been Ben and Pepto. So we have beaten Ben and Pepto. His tummy rumbles no longer. But as I was saying, with regards to how I would classify this game, I would say that this game is more along the lines of Gauntlet. So don't judge this as a roguelike or a roguelite, because I think in a lot of cases if you come into this game thinking that you're going to get something like, oh, I don't know, Rogue Legacy out, or you're going to get Dungeons of Dreadmore out, this game only lightly references some of those gameplay structures that are present in those other games. Instead, what you've got here is a simplified roguelite game, to the extent that I would almost say it's a lot like Gauntlet. That's the one game that I would draw the correlation to. If you enjoyed Hammerwatch or you enjoyed Gauntlet games back in the day, for example, I played the hell out of Gauntlet 3 when I was growing up. That was one of my favorite games. I played the punk rocker all the time. I am strong and you are weak. Yeah, that's one way to put it. So we have, unfortunately, if you take a look at the map, on every floor there's a boss, and we have unfortunately unlocked the boss a little bit early. Now I'm going to hope that his clawed hands can't open that door, and then we're just going to move along, and we'll come back for him later. We're also going to vandalize everything. You know how it goes. Heroic vandalism. We're going to destroy everything that we can along the way to get ourselves any loot that might be beneficial. I'm going to freeze that bat. A well-respected game of freeze bat in fantasy circles. If you've never been in a fantasy realm, it's a game that a lot of people play. It's called freeze bat. It's a common game among mages, among people that have only learned cantrips and things of that nature. You go out, you find a bat, and you freeze it. It's very similar to a game of rock bat, which I personally have played. The game of rock bat, if you are unfamiliar, is played, you find little pebbles on the ground, and at night you go out in the wilderness and you throw the rocks up in the air, and bats will swoop down and try to catch them, and you get 5 points if a bat actually catches the rock in its mouth. You get 10 points if it catches the rock and then spits it out, and you see the rock fall back down to the ground. It's easier to play over a lake. Typically they just they hit the rock and it just kind of grazes it, they hit it with it, and then they kind of fly off in a different direction. Now, let's be clear, you don't throw the rocks at the bat. You underhand them up into the air so that they have hang time like a bug would. And then the bat swoops down, and if he grabs it and drops it, you get points. And so that's the game of Rock Bat. And it's an entertaining game. Don't judge me, there's not a lot of fun things to do when you're out in the middle of nowhere. No bats were harmed during this game, I promise you. There we are. I love bats. If it injured a bat, I wouldn't play it. Let's go up, and I think what we'll do now is we'll swing through this location. Ooh, and he has just cast Flame on us. Unfortunate, and probably painful too. Nonetheless, not much we can do about it at this point. Will you stop shooting fire at me? I'm not a barbecued bit of venison. I'm not a little piece of beef that you should cook. In fact, I'd be totally friendly if you didn't attack me. I'd be cool with all of the animals in this domicile if they didn't go out of their way to try and bite me, slash me, or otherwise injure me. So as I was saying, I would probably call this more of an action RPG than anything else, and I would compare it to, say, like Hammerwatch, just in a turn-based format. Let's take a look here and pan around. It looks like we've got a door on our right. I'm going to kill this guy because I think I can kill him before the bat gets over here. And then we'll finish off the bat. Now, every time you level up, I haven't noticed if there's a character sheet around. I've actually been pressing buttons. I went through all of the keys, and I couldn't find a character sheet or anything like that that kind of denoted what I was good at or what I was powerful at. I think this is all you get right here. I didn't know if there's anything further like hit statistics or anything, but you've got attack, you've got your mana, or I guess your magic power or something, you get your defense. I don't know how these correlate. One recommendation that I would give is maybe give us a little bit more feedback on what some of this stuff does. So maybe if this is your hit chance versus like somebody at level 3, this is your chance for, you know, your damage to go up by whatever amount, because right now you kind of got statistics but you aren't sure what they do. For example, with armor would probably be the simplest one to shore up. Like, what calculation is being run right there that allows my armor to be beneficial to me? Like, why do I care? Like, why do I want more armor? Influence me, noble developer. Ah, a spell book. Let's have a look and see what we've unlocked. We've gotten a Essence Resorber. What does Essence Resorber do? You are able to steal some of the target's life essence unto yourself. Now, that's a really, really good spell book for the shaman, and we're going to try that out right now. Cool. So that's probably the best spell that I've found so far for the shaman. A lot of the things that are in the game that usually when I loot spells, I don't tend to get things for my class, but that one is actually really beneficial to shaman because he is a mage who is caught up in melee combat. He's the only hybrid class in the game. There's a stairwell going down to the 2nd level if we were so inclined, and I'm not trying to make a pun right there as to stairs being inclined, but anyways, the pun is already there, so we will address it and we will move forward, and we shall no longer talk of it. It is a terrible pun, and it should be ignored from now on. I actually think Essence Resorber is going to be one of those things that I'm going to use a lot from here on out. Although it looks like it has a really long cooldown on it, a 50 or 60 turn cooldown, so that's going to be pretty... Oh no, we've triggered a trap. Alright, well, let's swap back over. If you want to switch your spells just on the fly, you can use your scroll bar on your mouse or your little scroll button. And then we'll right click and let me freeze you. And now that you have been frozen in place, we appear to have looted a key. A Doom key. I'm not sure I want to be unlocking any Doom today, sir. I'm definitely not sure that that is the thing that I'm looking for. And so, as you can see, the game plays along in simplistic fashion. It kind of depends on how many spells you get. I think an interesting thing to do is maybe unlock a gameplay mode where you play multiple characters in turns. I don't know. The game is what it is. I'm not going to recommend that the game do anything odd, but at the moment, if you're looking for some rapid-fire gameplay that's easy to get into, like you can play it over a short term of time, this is probably going to be one of those games that is going to be entertaining to you. This is a beer and pretzels game, as I've heard other LPers call it, in that you can sit down and you can play a quick game of Quest of Dungeons pretty rapidly. It's not going to be anything that's going to tax your brain cells. You're not going to have to sit here and think too long about your decisions. Every now and again, it'll be like, do I want to freeze this guy, or do I want to freeze this guy? Do I want to AoE, or do I want to freeze? But beyond that, the tactical decisions that the game kind of dishes out on you, there's not that many. It's just kind of a fun little game to play along, destroy some monsters, get some treasure, and go about your business. And go about your business we shall. The enemies do vary, so if you were to go down to the next floor, for example, the theme of the levels changes. So the first floor is going to be like this bluestone dungeon type deal. The second floor, from what I've seen, is kind of a jungle layout, and the animals do change accordingly. So while you're in the forest or the jungle, you're going to be fighting with falcons. The enemies do change, so you aren't fighting static enemies every single turn. You're going to be fighting with ants and things like that. I'm going to jump into that teleporter portal because I have a decent inclination as to where it goes. And so we need to go back. We've just about tapped out the first floor, but we need to go back this way. So we're going to go left, 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 up. Okay, so I had to memorize my directionality. So left, 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 and a bat, which was not part of the plan. But you know what? We're going to stay variable right here. We're going to dance around on our heels. We're going to move around like Bruce Lee and just make sure that we're always moving. And then there's our next left. Blast that guy, and hopefully there's some place to go in here because I don't feel like we're at a good enough level right now to fight with the boss. Those dragon bosses are super scary. Needs a rusty key. Sounds like a sex move. Doing the rusty key. Got a rat right there who I'm going to freeze and annihilate, and then the dungeon has you. Yeah, it definitely has me. This game is entertaining, though. I came in with pretty low expectations. Anytime that I tend to peruse forums quite a bit before I go in and play a game, and I feel like that's probably the end of this floor. You may get to see floor 2. That's probably the smallest generation of floor 1 I've ever seen, unless this attaches down here below. But anyways, I'm pretty skeptical when I buy into like little $2.99, $3.99 games that are super cheap. The breadth of the gameplay that you get has to be expected. I think this game would probably do pretty well on iOS and on the phone as well. So if the developer's looking for extra revenue streams, I would probably recommend that. I'm gonna give the dragon a minute to close with me. Okay, and so he has now struck me back. I do want to see how good Essence Absorber is gonna be. So it gave us 9 health. That wasn't too bad, but we're gonna run away now because run away! And then we're gonna finish him off, hopefully. There it is. The boss has been defeated. We've leveled up, and he's dropped a bunch of loot. Let's have a look and see what we've got here. So we've got the Strong Slayer Sword Piercer, which gives us plus 19 to our attack power. God, that's amazing. That's really good. Unprepared. You have equipped something that you don't have the skills to use properly, or the skills to use her properly. So there it is right there. There's lots of typos in the game. There's lots of translational type stuff. I guess I'll go with the cracked body armor then, since it seems a lot better. We can't use swords, so I'm going to go back to my staff, even though that sword is frankly amazing. That's a really, really good sword. We've picked up a strong body armor. It's not going to be quite as good as what we've got. We've got the Tome of Skills and its wound patch. So I think that's a warrior skill. But as you can see right here, it's going to allow us to, I think it heals... It costs 2 mana and we regain some health. We're not going to be able to put it on exhibition right now because we've already defeated the boss, and in leveling up we've gotten our health all back. He's dropped a little bit of treasure right there, and I'm going to pick it up. He's pooted out some treasure for us. I do really wish we could use that sword. So this would be one of those times. That weapon has the highest attack power I've ever seen, by the way. You guys aren't familiar with the type of attack power that you see in this game fairly frequently, but that thing has really, really good attack power. I'm going to freeze him, and then we'll just fight this bat. Then we'll grab that egg, and we're on fire right now, so I'm going to eat an egg, because who knew that eggs have the tendency to make you no longer flammable? That was one of those little things about the universal physics that I was never aware of, but you know what? Fire plus eggs equals doused, and a nice little sizzle effect. What is this right here? We've got Meteor. Ooh, that sounds fantastic. It costs a lot of mana, though. It's expensive. But we're going to test, you better damn well believe we're going to test this before this is over. Yeah, buddy, there it is. That's what I like to see. And so as you can see, the game does have a lot of skills. I mean, I'm seeing new things right here. I've played for a couple hours at this point, and I'm still seeing new things drop every gameplay. So I think the variability of the items that you can pick up, I mean, a lot of the items like the weapons and the armor are randomly generated, so that's just one of those things that those are always going to be different. But we've got a water bottle. Yeah, let's drink that. We need some health back. I'm also going to eat that egg. We can drink beer to get health back, but it makes us drunk, and being drunk is unfortunately not as awesome as it sounds. Come back later for more supplies. What the? I've never seen that happen either. So I guess he has nothing. We can sell him some stuff, though. I'm not going to sell him my plus 29 damage sword. I will, however, sell him some of the other weapons. And so as you can see, the items sell for a lot. The game has a little bit of a gold currency inflation thing going on where you can get tens of thousands upon millions of gold, and believe me, your purse will be quite full by the end of the day. That's alright though. It's never a bad thing to have a massively full coin purse. It never hurts. It never hurts to have a well filled out coin purse. And there's your obligatory joke of the day. Break that desk, grab ourselves another tome, and let's see what we've got here. Sword Apprentice. So now, I don't think that's an ability. I actually think that means we can use swords. And so it's a good thing we held on to that. Yep, there it is right there. And so now our attack power has been upgraded. I think this is going to be the time for us to go down to floor 2 because we are so massively mighty right now that we could probably survive floor 2 without many issues, I think. Although that didn't buff my attack as much as I thought it would. By getting a 22 attack bonus, it did not help. Quest completed. Didn't even know I had a quest. That's cool. I like completing quests whether I know about them or not. If I am ignorant of my quests, hey, whatever, I'll take it. Another spell book has been dropped, and I think this will waka waka waka. Let's go ahead and a little bit of a Fozzie Bear reference right there. I think this is the most spell books I've ever gotten in a playthrough. We've got Empowerment. Sure, why not? And we've also got Drowsiness. Let's have a look and see what we've got here. We have Empowerment. You feel invigorated and you have more strength, so it increases your wisdom, vitality, and magic power. Alright. Drowsiness puts your target to sleep, and I think that's probably going to be a pretty useful ability to use in conjunction with Terror. So now we can CC 2 enemies at a time. Let's teleport around and see where it takes us. Let's see if we can't get back to the stairwell a little bit quicker. I forgot to break a pot. I am a terrible adventurer. How does that happen? How do you forget to break a pot when you're an adventurer for a living? Oversights. Oversights. Is that all, stranger? You don't have anything for me, man. I need you to have treasure that I can purchase. Here's a stairwell. Let's go down to floor 2 so you guys can see. Our hero keeps getting stronger, but will he make it? Well, I mean, he's not very good at crafting, so he might make it, but what that it is, I'm not really sure. And this would be one of those times that I think double casting is going to be an amazing plan. And so upon putting our enemies to sleep with a lovely lullaby, I like to think that my sleep spell comes with a lullaby. It's just like, and then everybody's happy and they just kind of fall asleep. I sense a musical accompaniment whenever I cast it. Maybe that's just me, though. It doesn't appear to have as long of a... Oh, it actually comes off when you hit them. That makes sense. That makes sense. Got ourselves hardened skin. Probably make you popular at the club. In this book, you will find the knowledge necessary to... Ooh, summon. What does summon do? Well, let's find out here. You summon a minion to help you in your battles. Minion, assist me in my battles. Oh, I don't have enough mana. It costs 30? Oh, man. That's disappointing. I'm gonna blow a mana potion right now because I can, and I just want to see what it does. Oh, hell yeah. I am so stoked right now. Let's fear him. Oops, I selected empowerment. That's okay, we can hit him harder. I can beat my own summon to death? That's weird. He seems to be in the way. Go away, summon. I'm tripping over you. And not like, you're so beautiful, girl, that I'm tripping over you type of way. It's like, you are actually in my way and I'm tripping over you. It appears as though my spells are no longer working. I'm using empowerment. That's why they're not working. There we go. The symbols look similar. Get a little bit of health back right there. Open a treasure chest. What the hell is that? A heavy shield. Sure, I'll equip it. That sword has serrets on it. Oh man, it's not as good. Sickness. And sickness. You have learned the skill before, but it still used up the skill book. Thanks, I guess. A shiny light staff of curse. It's not actually cursed, is it? Well, since we're a wizard, I'll give ourselves a staff since it's a little bit more thematically cogent. But anyways, I think we've seen about enough of the game, right? You know what? You go away, pal. You go away right now. I think we've seen about enough of the game. The game is Quest of Dungeons. My name is Splattercat. If you enjoyed this, the series is called Weekly Indie Newcomer, in which I talk about a new release indie game that I've been playing over the last week. I like this game a lot. It was a one-man development team, and aside from some of the little foibles it has inside its development, I think that it's $4.99. I mean, you could do a whole lot worse for $4.99, but if you're really hesitant about it, I'd wait till a Steam sale. It will undoubtedly go down to like 99 cents at some point. What I will say is, let's go ahead and talk about the pros and the cons while I play a little bit further here. With regards to the pros of this game, I feel like the soundtrack to me stands out as the number one thing that I really like about the game. The soundtrack is fantastic. I like the music, I like the sound effects. Everything about it makes me nostalgic for the days of classic gaming with the Super Nintendo and so forth. I also think that the graphics are pleasant. I feel like there could be a few more set objects, maybe some extra tables, some banners, things to make the rooms stand apart a little bit better. But beyond that, I think everything is pleasant to look at. The other pros that I would say is that the game can be played, you know, in fire and forget sessions. It's very much a Sunday afternoon kill time type game where if you've got 15-25 minutes to play a game and you're not looking to get into anything too deep, then I think you could do a lot worse than Quest of Dungeons. On the con side, so there's a couple things. I'd like to know a bit more about my stats. So if there would be some kind of mouse over text for attack power, magic power, defense, and all those things to let me know exactly what it is I'm accumulating, that would be vastly appreciated. Additionally, other cons, I would say that the UI is a little bit limited with what it is right now. There are so many spells in the game that I would love to see some kind of hotbar in which I could put my spells and so I could just cast them with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 keys, just like you would do in, say, an MMO or any other action RPG type game. Just basically able to select my spells on the fly and fire them a bit quicker without having to like leaf through my booklet at all times or my spell book at all times. My spell book is more of a booklet or a pamphlet than anything. It's not very well fleshed out. But anyways, other cons that I would say, there's not a whole lot of meat here, and I think this is going to be a con for some people. This is the kind of game that would strike me as being vastly successful on iOS or the Android, but as it comes, I wouldn't brand this game as a roguelite or a roguelike. There's just simply not enough there. I would say that if you wanted to call it an action RPG with turn-based elements, I think you would be in a lot better of a state. Like I said, I would compare it to Hammerwatch or Gauntlet before I would compare it to, say, Powder. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. That would be the way that I would task it. Yes, the game does have permadeath, but so did Gauntlet, you know what I mean? So, in any case, I think that if you're looking for a deep, lasting gameplay experience, this is probably not going to be it, but if you're looking for something to play on a Saturday afternoon because you're bored for 30, 45 minutes, you could do a whole lot worse than Quest of Dungeons. My name is Splattercat. If you enjoyed this series, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and otherwise comment down below. I do these every Friday. It's called Weekly Indie Newcomer. Its pseudonym is W.I.N, I suppose, or its acronym is W.I.N. and I do put them out every single week. We talk about an indie game that I have been playing over the course of the last 5 to 6 days. This week's winner was obviously Quest of Dungeons. It's $4.99 on Steam if you wanted to pick it up. I feel like I've said this information 10 to 15 times now, so I will see you guys all next week. Take care out there, everybody, and hi-do.